Let's jump right in. Welcome everyone to the Oakland Promise Brilliant Baby Program Family Leadership Group. We're very excited to see you all having great attendance Friday. And just so you know, this is our last FLG of the year. So we're closing with this very interesting topic. Our next FLG is going to be in February. So we're really appreciative of your attendance today. Just a little reminder on your housekeeping and attendee tools. The webinar today is being recorded because we want to be able to share this information with the families that are not able to attend today. So we're going to be uploading this on YouTube after, on our YouTube channel. Also, you all are muted, but if you wish to say something, you can always raise your hand or type on the box, on the chat box. Alexis is here to support you. She's checking the chat box for any comments, and she will make sure that that we hear your comments or questions. Mostly because I have a very limited view of what's happening in the background because I'm sharing my screen. Then the other thing is that you can, like I said, you can always unmute your camera as well. It's your choice, although we love seeing your beautiful faces and your babies. That makes us very happy, but you don't have to have your camera on. You can use the chat box to ask any questions or make any comments. We're gonna try our best to make this as dynamic as possible, especially because the presentation that we have today prepared for all of you is supposed to be very dynamic with Tandem. And this is your menu bar. You can see the little people here. Those are the participants. You can raise your hand. If there are questions, you can say yes or no. And to be honest with all of you, I'm not pretty sure what go slower or go faster means. So I'm just gonna skip that. But I don't think we're gonna be using any of that today. All right, so let me start with an icebreaker. We wanna hear from you what inspired you to attend today. And you can type all of these answers in the chat box. We're gonna take a minute for you to type on your chat box what inspired you to attend today. So we'll be reading. Alexis will be reading your answers.
Wait, where's the chat box again? Sorry.
The chat box is in your menu bar. To be honest with you, I cannot show it.
If you go to the bottom of your screen, there's going to be a little message sign, and under it, it's going to say chat.
Okay, great.
Waiting for to roll in with what inspired them to join us today. One is starting off our baby to college. So yes, early development. Beautiful. Oh, so we have a new guest saying they had never knew about the Brilliant Baby program. So we're happy you joined us. We're ready to offer some valuable information for your baby and you.
Welcome.
Any additional inspiration? I think we're slowing down a bit, but we are very excited to have you all here. And there's a question about how did it all start. So in the coming year, we will be having info sessions in which you can attend and learn all about our history. And we're happy to share all that information with you.
Thank you. All right. Thank you everyone for participating. And we're gonna keep moving because we have a tight agenda today. Before we jump in with Tandem, I want to make sure that you all are aware that even during the pandemic, Brilliant Baby is still enrolling babies in the program. And if you're already a part of the Brilliant Baby program, we want to encourage you to invite other families that you possibly know, whether it's your neighbors or family members or friends that qualify for the program, to join us. So here's a little video for all of you, so that there's just a little reminder. Okay, let me see. I'm gonna make it. Thank you all. Oh. Oh no. How do I do this? Well, while I figure this out, oh, there it is. So the reminder here is that if you refer families to the program and they qualify and they get to be enrolled, we put your name in a monthly drawing that we're having for a $50 gift card. So every month we are choosing someone that either referred a family member or filled out their survey, their annual survey of participation, and they participate in this drawing, and it's really exciting. And so there's a chance to get $50 if you refer someone in the program. Oh no! Ah! Okay, there you go. All right. So with that said, it's my pleasure to introduce Tania Camacho from Tandem Partners in Early Learning, who's going to be talking to you all about magic and story time. And there she is. Tania,
Awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Dulce. And like she mentioned, my name is Tania Camacho Pineda. I'm super excited to be here, to meet all of you, interact, and like Dulce mentioned as well, today I will be facilitating the magic and story time, and just really delving deep into interactive tips to make children fall in love with books and learn while doing it. And interactive, I want to hear from you, I learn from you, and then just a safe space to learn from each other. And get wonderful tips on how we can make book sharing super interactive and engaging. So next slide, thank you. And so yeah, so maybe some of you recognize the name from the pictures. Maybe you recognize our bright green bags. So we have two programs which all of our programming falls under, and it's Story Cycles. And that was a book rotation program with our partner school sites. And right now during COVID, things look a little bit different, but we're still very much engaged with our partner school sites by doing virtual interactive read alouds, providing any type of support, providing workshops such as this. And then with our early learning everywhere, it looks a little bit more like this, where we partner with other community-based organizations to share this information. So all of us could be having these fruitful talks and just learn from each other. Awesome. And then in terms of what we were going to discuss today, it's going to be the 3 tips for sharing books. And also I'm going to do in the very beginning, after I ask my next question, is going to be a read aloud demonstration. And also it's going to be an opportunity to discuss techniques and that's where I would love to hear from you, what you're doing already, and then just new things that maybe came about this workshop. And then, so my first question to you all, and feel free to write in the chat. I actually also have the chat open to read it out loud. But my question to you all is, how do you currently share books with young children? And there's no such thing as a wrong answer. I take all answers. All of them are right. And so as they're coming in, I can give an example. With my niece and nephew, we love to go to the park. And so we have a chat there, and then we find our little corner in the grass and we share a book. So that could be an example. Maybe it's similar to one of your examples, but it could be completely different.
I would like to share.
Oh yeah, go ahead. Oh, apologies. I'm not able to hear you, and maybe it's just me for the person that came to the speaker, but I am seeing in the chat, and it says we engage in conversations about the book, and I read and talk with them. That's awesome. And I pretend that I don't know this character or ask my daughter, how do you read this? So that's awesome, getting into that role playing. I know I have some of my favorite characters that you can see in the back. I was like, they're all standing out, but some of my favorite titles, and just really delving into the storyline, character development, just like a movie. And we read before bed, so establishing that routine. And then my son reads to my daughter, so taking turns where it's like, I'm going to take the lead. And you guys are kind of already tapping into some of the topics we're going to discuss. So this is awesome. You guys are the experts. And my daughter likes to hold and chew board books, and that's totally fine. That's why they make them extra sturdy, so they can be in little kids' mouths if that's how they want to explore them, and just kind of fall where it's like, oh, you know, I had fun even before I knew how to read. It was in my mouth. I threw it. It flew really far. And then eventually, as they get older, get into the actual text in the meat of the book. So that's awesome. Okay, I'll just give it a few more seconds if people want to share out. But these are all awesome. And like I mentioned, there are all of them kind of touch base on the 3 tips that we're going to go. So super easy. And like I mentioned, there's really no such wrong way of sharing books, sharing a conversation. And so these spaces are always great where it's like, oh, I never thought of that activity, or approaching it this way. That can be really fun for my kiddos. So yeah, feel free to continue dropping in the chat, and then I'll read them out loud because they are all connected to the topic of today. Yeah, and thank you all for sharing. And so we can move to the next one. So like I mentioned, I was like, something I do miss from the classroom, since going into these classrooms and reading to the kiddos, doing interactive, they would come and hug you and touch the pages of the book. So what I would love for you all to do is to put your kiddo hats on. And as I'm doing this read aloud, I want you all to kind of react as you would maybe your kids would. When I ask questions, when I ask to make movements, just so you can see the techniques that I use. And so like I mentioned, there's no wrong way. You might be doing similar things that I'm doing in this read aloud, or some different. And while you have your kiddo hat on, I want you to interact like I mentioned, but also to keep these questions in mind. And we'll come in after I do like a 5-6 minute read aloud demonstration with both a more preschool, so 3 to 5 year old book, and then for more of the smaller kiddos, which are 0 to 2, to think about what are the techniques I use to engage children, and in this case you guys, because you have your kiddo hats on, and then how is it the same or different from when you're reading. So if it's possible, more for the tech aspect, I know right now they can see the read aloud model slide. Would it be possible to pin my video in case there's other sounds, so I can be kind of maybe one of the featured squares? Oh yeah, or that possible too. Awesome, thank you. I was like, you have been spotlighted. Awesome. So, hi class, how's everybody doing today? Is everyone having a great day? Thumbs up if you are. Awesome, I see a thumbs up. Great. So today, we're gonna read this really cool book. And what do you notice from the front? Lots of color. It's like a rainbow, right? And the title is My City is Oakland. And do we know what that letter is? The very first letter? It's an O. Oakland starts with the letter O. Awesome. And should I open this book to explore some more? Who says we should open the book? Thumbs up if we should open the book. We should open it. Awesome. Let's explore. My city is Oakland. My city is magical. Do we know what this is on top? Maybe a rainbow, you're right. It's super colorful. Some of your favorite colors are in that rainbow. So that's what makes it magical. Maybe some of you have visited Children's Fairyland. That's what we see here. Hands up if you visited Fairyland. I see some hands. Awesome. And then we see some ice cream. My city is sweet. This picture is making me hungry. Can we all eat our imaginary ice cream? So grab your spoon and dig into the ice cream and let's put it in our mouth. Nom, nom, nom. Was that good? Our imaginary ice cream was super good. What flavor was it? Mine was chocolate. Maybe yours was vanilla or pistachio. All flavors are great. My city's historic, tasty, and unique. So what do we notice over here? We notice some trees. Some are really big. Some are a little bit smaller. Some balloons. And they're going really, really, really high. Can we try to stretch out and try to reach to the balloon? Imagine you're catching one and bringing it back down. I bet it's your favorite color. Awesome. So that was my demonstration for 3 to 5-year-olds for a pre-K. And I also wanted to take the time to showcase maybe how it would go with children that are between 0 to 2, where they're still acquiring language, learning vocabulary. And so this one's still with your kiddo hats on. So I would come. Hi class, nice to see all your beautiful faces. Today, we're gonna be reading Where is Little Fish? Can we all make fish faces? Repeat after me. And it sounds like a kiss. And then we're fish. Great. Hello, I am Little Fish, swimming in the sea. Let's all swim. Swim, swim, swim. We can swim fast and we can swim slow. I'm off to play hide and seek. And now let's do hide and seek. Put your hand over your eyes. I see you. I see you again. Can you find me? Look at those beautiful fish. We have blue, we have yellow, we have red. And this tiny, tiny one is orange. Great. We're being real observant, looking at all the fish and the movement. Thank you all. We were great fish. But look at this. Surprise! There's a fish. But now it's playing hide and seek, just like us. Hide and seek. I see you. Do we want to see the fish? Surprise! Here I am again. Awesome. So that was the demonstration for the 0 to 2. So now you all are able to take off your children hat, and now maybe I'll kind of give it 30 seconds for you all to think about the 2 questions, and we can go back to the slideshow now if that's possible. Awesome. So the questions again are, what techniques did I use to engage children? And so you can think of both the techniques I use for the 0 to 2, which was the board book, or you can also give examples of what you saw for the model for the 3 to 5-year-olds, which is a little bit more for preschool. And also the second question, how is it the same or different from how you currently read? Awesome. So it's making it about them, yes. What kind of ice cream? I was like, every time I feel like I select books about food, I was like, I'm getting hungry again. So making it about them. What is their favorite flavor? That's awesome. And I know I'm seeing on the chat, but also feel free. I think earlier someone tried to unmute and shout it out, so feel free to do that. So engaging them in conversation, that is so correct. And something I do want to point out about the engagement in conversation, you all know your children best, and know maybe for the younger ones, it's like, oh, they're still learning their vocabulary. Maybe it's a little bit more appropriate to focus on movement and get reaction. Maybe when I was throwing kisses like the fish, so they start associating movement to sounds, to new vocabulary words. And then for the older ones, a lot more open-ended questions and closed questions to practice on that critical thinking kindergarten readiness skill. And going to character, yes, I was like, we could definitely be silly. I know I was like, everyone knows how to do a fish face, and it like stretches out the cheek muscle. So it's good for both adults and kiddos. And they do remember fun experiences. I know in school we get homework, but we don't want it to associate this activity to homework. We want them to get it in a routine, get that routine going. And always remember, it's like, oh, those 5-10 minutes that we share these books, it's fun. It doesn't feel like a chore. It doesn't feel like homework. I'm really looking forward to the next day we share that experience with the adults in my life. Any others? Like I mentioned, there's no such thing as a wrong answer. Okay, well, feel free to, as the ideas come into your mind, or maybe you remember something, feel free to drop in the chat. And then, like I mentioned, everything is connected. And we'll go over more in detail the 3 tips, because I'm gonna break it down where it's like you saw it in action, and then I'll explain how each of them looks a little bit more in detail. So yeah, thank you for those that shared. Awesome. So something you might have noticed in those read alouds, there was a lot of back and forth conversation. I was imagining you all were children speaking back to me, also reading the chat. So definitely this virtual landscape. I was like, I'm imagining lots of interaction. You all are jumping, you all are acting like great kids, super engaged. But yeah, this was because of the power of serve and return. And another way to describe them is simply those back and forth conversation, just like in tennis, you throw the ball, you get it back. It looks slightly different for younger kids, like I mentioned, where it might be a lot more action, or you're just making more facial expressions. Maybe you get a smile back, maybe they're crying, but they're interacting with that movement, with those sounds. And with the older ones, focusing really on that critical thinking, print awareness, vocabulary acquisition. So quite like I mentioned, there is no wrong way to do this. There's so many ways to approach it, make it fun, make it about the kiddos, for them to want to repeat this activity. And in February 2018, cognitive scientists at MIT actually demonstrated that serve and return is the most important thing you can do for children's language development. They examined the brain scans, and they found that children who experienced more conversations saw greater activity in Broca's area. In Broca's area, you see it, we kind of pinpointed it in the red in the slide. That's the part of the brain that involves language processing. And that back and forth exchange, or conversational turns, you throw the tennis ball, you get it back, between the child and adult, really increased that brain activity, and was shown to be the best predictor of language and literacy development. And in other words, children who experience most serve and return interactions with adults became stronger readers later on. Does anyone have any questions about that, or anything that maybe that all those terms sparked? Feel free to put in the chat, and then I'll read out loud. No? Okay. Well, yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to drop in the chat and I'll connect back. I can easily refer back to this slide. So like I mentioned, so the 3 tips for book sharing, nice and neat, and just 3 tips. The first one being follow the child's pace. Number 2, make it a conversation. And number 3, having fun. And I feel you all were experts even coming in. Y'all kind of touch base in your comments of what you noticed in my read aloud about making it about the children so they can feel connected to that activity, making lots of questions and having those fruitful conversations, and then just being silly. As adults, we all have we're kids at heart. So it's like, it's always nice to act like an elephant or stretch our necks out like a giraffe. So sometimes it's useful for us to get silly and get into a new character. And so next slide. Awesome. So follow the child's pace. This one can look at a variety of ways, more to the example where I was giving with my niece and my nephew, where we go to the park and they really enjoy going to the park. We choose their favorite location at the park. We select the grass area we want to sit in, and then we sit and enjoy the book. So very much from beginning to end, they selected the location we were going to read at, the exact spot, and we're probably in hand their favorite book. So very much they are the leader in that activity. And also, you really don't have to finish the story. I know sometimes as adults, it's like from beginning to end. If you just maybe cover the front cover, that when we notice where is little fish, there is so much happening just in this front page that you can pretty much invest 5 minutes talking about that one fish, its motions, how it's feeling, the coral, the colors. So I haven't even opened the book, and I could think already of 10 actions or 10 critical thinking questions. And like I mentioned, letting them choose the book. Maybe they have favorite characters, they have a favorite color. I know in the picture is the Very Hungry Caterpillar. That is always the classic. It always makes me a little bit more hungry, where it's like, I can go for a pear. So letting them select that. And then repetition is key, where it's like maybe with that same fact that it's like, oh, we're reading this book for the 100th time. I think I don't want to read this book, but the child does. That's totally okay too. It's fun and it's good for the brain. And even though it might be, like I mentioned, frustrating to share that book, it's one of my colleagues, Laura, is like, it's the 20th time we're reading it today. The brain does release dopamine, giving your child a sense of satisfaction, as well as motivation for future reading and learning. And also each time they hear those same vocabulary words again and again, it reinforces it, making it easier to learn new words and start using them in conversation. Awesome. Any questions up to now or any feedback? I know I'm seeing the chat. Feel free to drop at any time, or maybe if you want to unmute yourself as well.
I do have a question, Tanya.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
So I also have a 4-year-old, and he gets, he gets obsessed with things, and he wants to read a book over and over and over again. It's just like so tiring for me, honestly, as a parent. How do you have any tips for parents when we're like already tired of the same book, the same stories?
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, maybe the 100th time of the Very Hungry Caterpillar, you know exactly what's going to happen next. You can kind of change it up where it's like, okay, we selected the same book again. Maybe in my adult to make this activity more fun, you can change it up and be like, hey, so we're going to read the Very Hungry Caterpillar again, but this time, how about you tell me the story without reading the text? So kind of changing up the activity where, yes, it's the same book, but now it's a different experience where it's like they're telling you the story, not exactly reading it, or doing an activity with it where it's like, maybe we focused on print awareness before. This time we're going to focus on the math. And every time we see fruit being introduced, we're going to do a jumping jack. And so now it's kind of different where it's like, oh, we're reading the same book, but every time you read it, I'm incorporating something different, maybe with the kindergarten readiness skills of print motivation, phonological awareness. So then as adults, it's a little different and not the same book. It's like, oh, it's the Very Hungry Caterpillar for the 100th time this week. So just changing it up, and kind of like I mentioned, you all know what attracts your children's attention most, and changing it up each day.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. So I'm not seeing any questions on the chat. And also, just like Dulce, feel free to unmute yourself and so I can hear. I know it's very limited, the squares I can see. So I was like, maybe I'm not seeing much.
我同個女係3歲幾啦，咁我同佢讀書嘅時候咧，我翻開第一頁講緊第一頁或者第二頁嗰陣時候咧，佢就不停咁翻，好快咁就翻走去啦咁樣。佢想又翻第二頁，我未講完嗰頁又翻第二頁，未講完又講第二頁咁，一味翻到。
So yeah, so I have a 3-year-old daughter, and was there, and I apologize, was there a question? And she flips the pages very fast. Awesome. So yeah, that's totally fine. And that's the cool thing for the 3, maybe we start getting into these things. That's fine in terms of what I was saying for the following the child's pace. Maybe for that activity, we're really just exploring the book and getting used to it, maybe doing that. You can maybe take some time to like, it's like, oh, I kind of know what this book is. And as they're flipping really fast, it's like, is there a fan in that book? It's like, let's look for it. So maybe you're respecting that they're flipping the pages really fast, but also bringing it back where it's like, maybe we can explore what's inside the book. there's clearly interest in just finding maybe something inside the book to redirect their eyes. It's like, hey, remember how you were doing this? They do that in the book too. You want to explore with me? So just bringing it back, respecting that maybe that's what they want to do in the moment with their interaction with the book, and always finding avenues to bring it back to the text, to the characters, or just having that conversation, which is equally important, that if maybe just touching the book and this action inspires that back and forth, that's equally valuable.
And then we have another question as well.
Mhm.
Considering that the libraries are closed, there's a parent who reads to their child online and they want to know if that's a good option as well.
Yeah, and I mean, with this virtual setting, I know as even Tandem staff, we have transitioned all of our read aloud experiences online, and I'll at the end also that will be shared with you all. But just we know situations are a bit different, libraries are closed, so equally valuable. Where I know in our specific read alouds, we make it as interactive, give moments for pause for them to think of maybe our question and not speed through it just because clearly we recorded it and so there's nobody in front of us. So yes, I know as Tandem staff and myself, we have tried to bring those interactive read aloud experiences online and seen other just organizations do it too, to accommodate to these times. So definitely, I know the online books and read aloud experiences online have been helpful for that exposure to new titles and just new readers. Awesome. So I'm not seeing any more questions. Great. Well, yeah, thank you for your questions, and then keep them coming. There's so many scenarios, so many examples, and also it doesn't have to be questions. It could be just like, hey, this works for me. And that's also super valuable. Let me get to my next slide. Oh, and I do see another question, and apologies, we'll get to this next one. So how do we make children focus themselves on you reading to them? So yeah, so like I mentioned, with these 3 tips that we're gonna cover, making it interactive so it doesn't feel like you're just reading where it's like, hey, like, my city is clean. Can we get a broom and sweep out? That's how we clean here. Or get the vacuum. And so it's so much more than just like, hey, I'm going to read the what's on the text itself, but it's like, hey, you're bringing them in an interest, in an action, in emotion. And so it's so much more even than reading where it's like, we got the text, we got the vocabulary, we got a bit of movement to stretch out the joints. So that's how you can bring them back. So that was the last question. And apologies, maybe you that was sent directly to me. Great. So yeah, so for tip number 2, make it a conversation. I know myself, I love to talk. And so it's like these come, it's like, oh, I want to know everything. And with the kiddos are the same. I recall when I would visit the classrooms with my own family members, it's like, why? What is this? How is this? And that's wonderful to start those wheels of the critical thinking and just like prediction and what's going to happen next. So one of the best ways to begin, like I mentioned, with both this one and this one as well, I didn't even have to open the book and I could already think of a question about a fish. I can think and it's like, what is that funny thing back there? I've never seen such a shape. And so reeling them in where it's like, maybe you haven't either. And if they give you the correct answer, great. But also if maybe my question was, what letter does this start with? And they say an A. Focusing on that in that strength-based approach where it's like, tell me why you think that. And kind of letting them get to like, I was thinking this because so and so, but you're right, it's actually an O. So whether it's like the kiddos also feel it's like, I got that answer wrong last time. Now I don't want to participate. So focusing on like, that's great critical thinking. Let's see how you got to that answer. And like I mentioned, there's so many questions that we ask as adults, that kiddos ask about everything they see. And so we have those more one answer where yes and no, is this blue? Is this yellow? We can also label, and it's like, what is that? So in this image, you can point to that bright circle and it's like, what is that? It's like, oh, it's the sun. And where do you see that? And so then connecting it to their life. Today's a little cloudy, but I was thankful that at 9 a.m. the sun came out, so I was able to see it. And then more of those open-ended questions where do you think the caterpillar's going? That really, there's just, if I provide this image, there's no wrong answer. The caterpillar could be going to a party, to a virtual party. The caterpillar could be going to take a nap right next to the sun. So just the beauty and seeing them get to those answers, and there's really no such answers to these or wrong answers to these open-ended questions. And I wanted to ask you all, just from this picture, what are other questions you can ask? They can be yes or no. They can be about labeling or open-ended. I'm not seeing any, but it's okay because there'll be more practice. Maybe I'll give some time for you all to let that simmer and think of amazing questions. And like I mentioned, there's no such thing as a wrong answer or a wrong question. It's always that curiosity to learn more. Awesome. And then if we can move to the next slide. Great. So yeah, the last tip, and I feel equally important, there, have fun. As we have kiddos at heart, when I was reading in the chat to be silly, totally great. Use silly voices and sounds, sing songs. I'm not the best singer, but I'm sure you all are. So incorporate those songs, play. I'm seeing in the notes to earlier open-ended questions. You're right. Also with fun, it's the open-ended. There's so many possibilities to have fun, to move around, act things out, and make connections to the child's life. And it can be really about anything. I know when I was covering my city is Oakland, I related it to the ice cream. We ate imaginary ice cream that made me a little bit hungry. In this image as well, from the very hungry caterpillar, it's like, I see pie. What sound does your stomach make when you see pie? It's like, yummy. Or is that a lollipop? And maybe it's blue. Is it raspberry or blueberry? And we see some cake. It seems like it's chocolate cake. Maybe a bear would really like chocolate cake. And then we act out like a bear and it's like, woo. Or maybe a giraffe really likes that cheddar cheese. Can we stretch our neck out like a giraffe and eat the cheese? And so many possibilities. And even as adults, it's like, let's be silly. It's like, we can be giraffes. We can walk like the elephant. We can shout and let that energy out. So endless possibilities. And the kiddos do react to that energy where there's like, the adult in my life is really enjoying this. This is super fun. I'm really looking forward to these 5-10 minutes tomorrow when we're reading a book, but it's so much more than that. And I know with these times, there's a lot going on, maybe limited time, but even with 5 minutes today, 5 minutes tomorrow, establishing that routine. And then when maybe the weekend comes along, that's a little bit more time, maybe increasing it to 10. And just back to that point where it's like, you all know your children best. With the younger ones that maybe they get a little restless, where it's like, maybe let's just do 5 minutes today, say all the vocab words, act it out. And with the older kiddos, with those more questions, it's like, let's try to aim for 7 minutes. And tomorrow, let's challenge ourselves and do 8 minutes. So it doesn't have to be hours long. I understand as adults, we have quite a bit on our plates, but just establishing that routine. Any questions, comments, anything that sparked? No? Okay. Well, now it's gonna be some practice. So I wanna hear from you all. Like I mentioned, there's no such thing as the wrong answer, wrong movement, wrong song. So if you all can take about 30 seconds to look at this image, and this is why I was referring to all the animals. I was like, I love 1, 2, 3 to the zoo. There's so many possibilities. If you can look at this image and think about any questions you would make, any silly sounds or voices, any movements, or any songs or games you could incorporate. And you can put it in the chat or also feel free to say it out loud.
Okay, so what is the little mouse doing down at the bottom?
Yeah. So that's another cool thing where it's like, at first I was like, oh, there is a mouse down there. And so maybe they didn't even realize there was one. So yeah, what is, so really open, it's like, what is it doing? And then extending it to like, how small is it? Is it a big mouse? Can we act small like the little mouse? So yeah, that's awesome. Thank you. Any others? And feel free to use the ones, I know I've been taking away the example of like, oh, let's stretch our neck out like the giraffe. That's always great to stretch it out if we've been sitting for a long time. And then maybe one of the giraffes is sitting. So it's like, let's sit like the giraffe. Or let's walk really slowly like the mouse. Maybe the mouse is playing hide and seek with the giraffes. And then relating it back to, we were playing hide and seek with the fish. It's like, okay, let's hide like the mouse. Do you see the mouse now? Do you see the giraffe now? So incorporating that. And the mouse, you can see the mouse in every page. So that's pretty awesome that it's that repetition. Another thing, maybe there's an amazing giraffe song, you know, that maybe I don't know about. Feel free to tune that out. I mentioned the game about hide and seek. And another interesting one that I've heard as I've given this is, how does a giraffe sound? I can't remember how a giraffe sounds. So I was like, I know the more common ones, like a tiger, a bear. And so you can make your own noises. I was like, today, the giraffe is going to sound like, and it's like, what other things make that sound? The wind. And it's like, and so for some animals, it's a little bit more easier to discover the sounds. We see it on TV. Maybe the last time we visited the zoo, but for more of these animals, I just like, I think I've just been focusing on these louder animal sounds that I don't know how a giraffe sounds. It's just a learning experience and a fun to just make it up for both young ones and older ones. And that could be the giraffe sound. And you could be right. You can go to the zoo and it's like, it actually sounded like that. Look at us. So yeah, so many possibilities. And an important note to make about this is only 1 page or 2 pages when you open it up of one book. And we were able to, or the mom, thank you for sharing, do the questions about the mice. I shared about 5, 6 movements and sounds just on these 2 animals. So just that the possibilities are endless, and reinforcing like, hey, we're we're doing something for school, we're reading, focusing on that kindergarten readiness skills, but this is fun and I want to do it the next day too.
We have a cool comment. It says
Mhm.
you could mention the way they eat because they're known for eating off of the high trees.
Yeah, so then it's like, let's stretch out and let's eat from the high tree. And it's like, can we reach? And then maybe if we jump, we can reach to another tree. And in your mind, it's like we have imaginary trees, or maybe somewhere in the house we're reaching for something. So yeah.
Serena has a great one too. I was thinking using the hide and seek game with the mouse and say the giraffes are looking for the mouse, and then orating it is one looks the way, the other looks that way, and this giraffe found the mouse.
Yeah, you're right. So teamwork, maybe in the house you all have played hide and seek, and maybe the older brother finds the toy first or the younger ones, and just maybe changing your head. It's like, can we do like that giraffe? Look this way and let's act it out. Maybe take a silly picture. So yeah, just endless. And these are awesome. Awesome. So as they come, feel free to drop it. I know so many possibilities, and these are great, the ones you all shared. And my next question, actually, in the next slide, kind of relates to it, to kind of give another 30 seconds for it to simmer. I know we discussed the 3 tips, which are following the child's pace, making it a conversation, and also having fun. And so I know you all have shared already great techniques that you're doing, from the photos, what inspired. But my last question to you all, that it's like, what is one new skill or activity you would try out by the next week? And it could be similar to what you mentioned. Maybe you come across this book online or have it physically, but just really any of what we covered today that you would like to try out in the next week. At least for me, I think I will try to be more like a giraffe and stretch. It's like feeling a little tense.
Yeah, I think I like the idea of bringing the book into the rest of, your life later on, like how you use the giraffes as a way to kind of bring it up again and maybe play hide and seek in a different way, and then remember the fish when we were playing hide and seek, just kind of connecting all the dots.
Yeah, definitely. And then these become books that you remember your whole life, where it's like, oh, I always love the If You Give a Mouse a Cookie, or Pete the Cat. That's like, I fell in love those as I became an adult. And it's like, those memories are great. And then from the chat, I'm seeing acting out more, physically, more movement. The peekaboo thing, that's always great. It's like, oh, this is like therapeutic. I was like, I don't see anything, I see the world. And asking a lot more questions and labeling. So these are awesome. And like I mentioned, they're never ending, and there's no such thing as a wrong song, a wrong silly, if you're engaging in that back and forth conversation is happening, and those wonderful fruitful conversations. So yeah, I want to thank you all for your comments, and just like in the next week, try out one new thing. And I know we're approaching the end, and my next slide is more as a resource, and we will drop it out on the chat as well. But like I mentioned, we have recorded quite a few interactive read-alouds that have activities attached. So feel free to check those out on our website. And then the next one, just like these events that were being hosted by Brilliant Baby, we also have other workshops being hosted by our colleagues at Tandem with different topics. So completely free, feel free to register. And the very last thing is we do have a survey. I know with these times, everything looks slightly different, but we're always trying to improve our curriculum, see what works, maybe what doesn't in this virtual setting. So we take that seriously, and you don't have to put your name. We just are always trying to make these better. And I know times are different, but to bring it the most interaction. And I just want to thank you all for listening, for sharing. I had a great time and hope you all did too. Yeah, thank you.